We have gotten many Minnesota Vikings updates over the past few hours as Kevin O'Connell, Kwesi, Adofo-Mensah, and this entire Minnesota Vikings staff has spoken out at the NFL Draft Combine, including some very interesting quotes about the plan going forward with the quarterback. We're going to be talking about all of these quotes here in this video. Be sure to stick around towards the end of the video when we do touch on Kwesi Adofo-Mensah's quote, hinting at what the Vikings quarterback situation is going to be. Before we get into all of these quotes here right now, though, we know that 91% of you guys watching right now are not subscribed to the channel. If you're looking for a spot for all of your Minnesota Vikings news, you're on the right spot. Hit the sub button, join us here on the channel. We are covering everything Minnesota Vikings, but without any further ado, Griffen, we got a lot of information today dropped upon us by Kwesi Adofo-Mensah and Kevin O'Connell over the past few days, actually, I should say. It's really starting off with a lot of stuff going down, and with the meetings today from the NFL Draft Combine, we have this. And these are some very exciting things, so ladies and gentlemen, prepare, sit down, relax, and let's get into these. But this morning, Darren Wolfson put out on Score North, Vikings head coach Kevin O'Connell is leading the meetings for the team's combine as Kwesi Adofo-Mensah is battling some sort of illness, but this is where things get very juicy. He was thoroughly prepared. He had everything he needed right at his disposal. He articulated what he thinks, what the plan is, or what he hopes it will be better than any other GM. They are blown away by how impressive KOC is. And now, we've been speaking about this really throughout the season, that people love Kevin O'Connell. They also love Kwesi Adofo-Mensah. This Minnesota Vikings staff, at least for the front staff, is loved by players and coaches alike, but more importantly, players. And when we see stuff like this come out about our coach, about our GM, this really sets us on the right path for players wanting to come play for the Minnesota Vikings. And you can't say that with every other team. We've seen coaches that have been hated by players a lot this year due to Aaron Rodgers, although he is a kind of a different situation. But there have been many players in the past who have really come out and said stuff that, I didn't like this coach for when I played for him. But we have not heard any of that about either Kwesi Adofo-Mensah or Kevin O'Connell. And Griffen, when it comes down to especially the draft combine, when you're getting all of these fresh players coming in from college into the NFL, how important do you think it is that we see players and just reactions like this about coaches? And we've seen, especially Kevin O'Connell throughout the past few seasons, players come up to him post-game and just want to talk to him because how big of a mentor he is, maybe even indirectly, but he is such an important piece of this team that I think that we're going to really be set in the right path regardless of where he is on this team.
Yeah, I think it's everything for him to have those moments at the draft combine. It's almost similar to recruiting in college where you're going around state to state, around to these different cities, sitting in these different living rooms, trying to recruit these guys, getting a feel for who they are as individuals. Even for guys that you're not planning on drafting. Last season, Kevin O'Connell and Caleb Williams, they had a really good conversation. And Caleb Williams talked about how great of a conversation that was and how much respect he had for KOC. And he knew he probably wasn't even going to Minnesota. But it goes and sets the tone not only for these young players as well, but like you said, for other guys around the league to see, hey, Minnesota is a place that you want to be. Minnesota, last year, they finished #1 in team voting as far as organization and place to be. This year, they finished second. So it's just a step down from first place, but we're still in the top 2. We did finish great across the board. We had an A+ in ownership group as well recently. So yeah, Minnesota, it's the culture that people want to be in. It's definitely a place that people want to be. As much as the winters do suck in Minnesota, it still is a place and an organization people want to be in. They want to play for. They want to bring a Lombardi to a city that has desperately been needing one. We have the best win percentage of any team that hasn't won a Lombardi in the Super Bowl era, and it's hopefully going to be a step towards getting that. Is just bringing the right pieces to the city and making sure that it starts at the top with this leadership group in KOC and Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, and it goes to show exactly why Kevin O'Connell won Coach of the Year last season.
Yeah, and I think leaving a lasting memory in these players' mind, even if they as you mentioned, they're not going to get drafted there, it still comes down to in free agency, hey, the Minnesota Vikings have always been a team that's treated me well. Stuff like that, it really leaves a lasting impact on these players, and especially ones coming into the NFL. And I think it's a very good plan going forward, but, I don't even think it's a plan as much as it is just Kevin O'Connell being himself. And that's, I think, what a lot of players like about him. He's just himself. He's cheering for everybody while still being that coach for the Minnesota Vikings that everybody wants to see. But we got a lot more screenshots coming in from a lot of these quotes, and heading into the quarterback conversation. There's so much stuff that came out of this, and this is what Kwesi Adofo-Mensah had to say on KFan 1003, and is how on how he'll approach free agency with the Vikings having a good amount of cap space, and kind of comes down to it again. The plan for these two have really been put out there. Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi Adofo-Mensah have spoken as what they want to see, and we haven't really gotten too many in-depth quotes from these guys until right now. And this is what Kwesi said. He said, "We know that we have to improve. We're going to aggressively attack it because we believe in turning potential weaknesses into strength." And this is one thing that I love to see for a few reasons. Now, when you see many GMs, many coaches, there's some stuff that they say that is not true. But Kwesi Adofo-Mensah is one guy that when he says something, I truly believe it, because whatever he said, he's promised. And he's been one of the only GMs, I think, in the major 4 sports in North America that I've truly trusted everything he said, and it's all been positive. So having him come out like this just makes me so excited to see what free agency is going to be like, because we know that we're going to have a few weaknesses heading into this into the free agency if we don't make a few kind of moves, throughout it and at the deadline and stuff. The draft and stuff. We're quite shallow in the secondary, and running back we have none right now. Quarterback is still a big decision, but the fact that Kwesi has said they're going to be here, they're going to be aggressively attacking this market, I am so excited to see what this brings.
Yeah, Kwesi stands on business. Everything that he said, he follows through on, just like you said. That's why I've loved having him as a GM, and I think that it just makes me even more excited for this free agency and for this draft. When it comes to the drafts, he's very sneaky as far as what he does on draft day. Doesn't show his cards at all and just makes all these moves happen that you wouldn't expect him to make happen. And then you also have the free agency side of things, with him also saying that they're going to be very aggressive. One thing is going to inhibit them from being very aggressive, and that is a certain quarterback that's going to come with an average of $40 million price tag. So with Kwesi coming out and saying that they want to be aggressive in free agency, they know weaknesses that they have, that's almost kind of in alluding to something that we're going to cover on in a bit and dive into as well. But with that, definitely seeing there that Kwesi says, hey, we have some weaknesses at quarterback. Well, hey, JJ McCarthy is the future. We have some weaknesses on the O-line. All right, we're going to go out and get a guy that we can have bolster down that side. I know Trey Smith just got locked down to a franchise tag. That unfortunately sucks, but now it's on to the next available guy that is the best that you can get. Then you also have the secondary as well. So yeah, we want to be aggressive in that. We want to be scary in that sense, and as well as pass rushing. So there's a lot of things here where Minnesota has a lot of places where, as great as we were this season, we did have a lot of weaknesses, or we were just getting by, where a lot of teams, their position groups or their secondaries or their linebackers and their pass rushes and their offensive lines, their position groups, they might have been operating at around like 90, 100% capability. We were probably going at about 75, where we had a lot of the right pieces, but we didn't have the full pieces that we needed to make it happen and have a fully complete team. And that's what Kwesi wants to do in this offseason.
Yeah, and these two have had a tough time escaping any question about the potential of a quarterback, who it may be, what the plan is. If any hint has been revealed, these two have been very good at keeping this a secret, but these questions did not stop here over the past few days. And when we're looking at a lot of this stuff, the Vikings ownership has also kind of revealed that they're going to be staying quite involved in the looming decision between paying Sam Darnold or rolling with JJ McCarthy here. And Kwesi Adofo-Mensah has, not revealed too much about this, and rightfully so. Obviously, you don't want to really spoil your cards here. You don't want to reveal them too much, but it's been safe to say that they've had a lot of pressure on them, and having the ownership involved, I think, as well, is a real big look at how important this is to the Minnesota Vikings. You may look at this between J.J. McCarthy and Sam Darnold and think this is not a really big quarterback decision, but a lot of this is coming down to the price tag more so than anything. Yeah, Sam Darnold and J.J. McCarthy both would be fantastic quarterbacks this year. There's no doubt about that. But when it comes down to what else this team needs, the price tag is a major decision. As you mentioned, Griffen, $40 million for Sam Darnold at this point. Yes, he's a good quarterback. Yes, he's probably going to be earning that and probably going to be, have a market value of that for quite some time now, but the Vikings cannot be the team to afford that. And before we get into our big screenshot, just another kind of quick one here. The Minnesota Vikings tweeted this out from a quote from Kwesi on J.J. McCarthy and said, "He's been everything we want him to be, and we're excited about his future." And once again, nothing has been revealed, but they've both spoken out, or really come out in every little kind of corner they can without giving away too much before the massive quote that Kwesi had right here. This is the one we were referencing at the beginning. From the Purple Persuasion, we believed past tense in Darnold and bet on the type of player, the person he was. Now we get a place where he has the rest of the league sees what we believe. Now it's our privilege to make a decision. That is what Kwesi Adofo-Mensah said on betting on Sam Darnold. Now, this is one of the first times I think we've seen Kwesi really come out and say anything in depth about this. We've seen Kevin O'Connell a few times, but having the past tense, we believed in Sam Darnold, and obviously that doesn't mean they count him out. This really may have kind of revealed some cards on accident that they are going to be going with J.J. McCarthy. Now, Griffen, I know we had a little conversation about this before the video, but what do you think about this quote? Obviously, it's something that is a big thing to kind of look at and under the table here.
Yeah, I think if there's anything in that quote that's to be pulled from as the revealing thing, the believed in Darnold, that's one thing on its own, but that could always be referring to just last season and just overall as just talking about last season. What I'm focusing on is now we get to the place where the rest of the league sees what we believed. And I think that is the thing to really hang on to here, where even like you were saying before we were recording, maybe with all of this, it's very similar to the Kirk Cousins situation where they're very much blowing smoke up his butt, just trying to just hype him up and bump up that price tag. And they did. They was very successful. Look at what Atlanta paid for him, and now they're stuck with it. Now they're in a situation where Sam Darnold, they're trying to create all this hype around him to make sure that other teams want to pay for him. It's not that Minnesota doesn't want to bring him back. They just don't want to bring him back for the price tag that you can get him at. So you hype him up like this. Other teams make bigger offers where he's more inclined to pick somewhere else, and they don't have to be the ones pigeonholing themselves, fitting the bill for a player that ultimately is a bridge type player. That is exactly why you brought him on in a 1-year deal. He played better than you expected, absolutely, but he still is a bridge type quarterback. He's not going to be that franchise starting quarterback that we thought we saw last year. But when crunch time came down to it, yes, the offensive line let him down. Sometimes the defense let him down. But when the chips were down, Sam Darnold wasn't able to be that guy. J.J. McCarthy has a chance to be that guy. And the Vikings know that, with Kwesi saying about how he is the future. He's who they plan for the future. You extended Justin Jefferson because you knew you were going to go get J.J. McCarthy so that you could afford it because he was going to be on a rookie deal. You want to go out and make these things happen where you want to make weaknesses into strengths. You want to turn into this scary team and bring back the purple people eaters for the new generation. You can't do that when you're paying $40 million for a guy and then only leaving yourself with $20 million to work with. It doesn't work like that, and Minnesota knows that. So that's why I think it's perfect here where Kwesi's saying, hey, other teams get to see what we saw, and if they want to pay for it, fine, let them. We got our own plans here. We have options at quarterback. We know what we can do. And then there's also the question of, hey, if it's not Daniel Jones or J.J. McCarthy, there's also Aaron Rodgers, Matt Stafford, and some other guys that might be out there they could bring in until J.J. McCarthy is fully ready. However, I think if J.J. McCarthy isn't ready for the start of the season, he'll be ready to go by week 6 for sure.
Yeah, it's been a few decades since the Vikings have really developed an in-house quarterback and found success with that. I think that Kwesi wants to do that once again. I think that this has to be the plan for the Minnesota Vikings going forward. Not just because the quarterback market is very unpredictable at a lot of times, but being able to develop someone in-house, having them from the beginning to the end is something that you get special moments with. I think that's what the Vikings are hoping for, but he is going to be the quarterback. I'm not gonna go into bold take as he's gonna be starting week 1, but in this season, I'm making a pretty big prediction that he will be the starting quarterback by week 3. There's no doubt in my mind, but still, and I kind of all regards with that injury, but you never know what we see in this market. And as you mentioned, the Kirk Cousins situation with Sam Darnold and the kind of that comparison, it's exactly what the Vikings want to do. They want teams to make a bid on him, and who knows, maybe we see Kirk Cousins cut by the Falcons. The Falcons sign Sam Darnold, and then Kirk Cousins comes back and sits on the bench, promotes J.J. McCarthy. But, some pretty wild takes there. But, there's a lot of things that could go down here. And hopefully we do see, Sam Darnold, first of all, in a good spot. Hopefully that he gets that big contract. But let's just hope it's not with Minnesota. We love him, but for the sake of the Vikings and for the sake of a Super Bowl, we hope that money is not going towards him on the Vikings. But, a lot of stuff here to cover. And we're going to get a lot more quotes here as the Combine continues and whatnot. So be sure to stick around, hit the sub button if you haven't already. But Griffen, you got anything before we finish this one off here?
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting weekend to see the rest of the Combine unfold and see what more we get to learn, see what other guys that we're going to be looking at. I know we were looking at Cam Jackson from Florida as an interior D lineman that they requested an interview with that we covered in our last video. So if you guys want to go and check that out and see what we think of that, go ahead and do that. But there's going to be a lot more of those types of things, I think, coming out of this draft Combine where Minnesota isn't projected to make any massive draft picks or any massive moves. But I think they're very much so gonna be the ones to find that diamond in the rough as far as these late round picks go.
Yeah, it certainly seems what the Vikings are looking for with a lot of these interviews and really what's coming out about that 24th overall pick. But we're going to have that in later videos as well, so be sure to stick around, hit the sub button. A lot of stuff coming out this weekend, and we're going to be very excited for it. So we're going to cover it here. Make sure to hit the sub button. But that's all we got in this video. If you did enjoy, give it a like, hit the sub button as well. We're signing out. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.